Hello everyone, welcome to the channel, and hopefully you enjoyed the first two videos. And I see a lot of great comments, and very happy that you're coming, commenting, liking the videos, subscribing to the channel. It's a great pleasure for me, so I'll keep on posting more and doing more stuff. So this one today is against Magnus Carlsen, and it's a game not only against Magnus Carlsen, but it's also a King's Indian. So yeah, beside it, I won the game, so it's twice the pleasure. It was won in King's Indian defense, and as you know, it's my favorite opening as black. And generally, I think, I think the most favorite opening in general in chess. So I'm very happy to look at this game and come back to these memories of 2014, especially that. As you know, I analyzed the game prior to making this video. So, actually scrolled through some articles as well about the game that I will suggest in the description under the video. So this one, as you can see on the screen, so this link I will share later under the video. And there is a kind of recap of the round by Peter Doggers of chess.com, and here he writes all the stuff about the round, about the game. There are some video from the press conference, I think, as well, like quotes by the players, and by different um, uh, people in the chess world. Like I can see here the editor of the Tweak, the one that makes all the weekly chess games that we're all using on the professional level, downloading them every week. So Mark Krauser, and here you can see a lot of photos and all that stuff, and also you can see the photo here of me playing against Magnus, that game that we're going to see now. So yeah, so a lot of things there. So I'll just mention the link. I'll post the link in the description, and you can later see and read the article. So now let's go to the game. Before we start, as I said, it's it's a King's Indian, so it's like certainly it's my favorite opening, as I said. And once the fan came to me on one of the Olympiads, and she said that I love you, and there was a pause. So I was like kind of stunned by this. And then she said, because of the King's Indian, and maybe normally not in the chess life, you would be very happy. You would be very unhappy to hear that somebody loves you for something, not for your inner self or your character, or I don't know, that things that you do in life and so on, or maybe for some character traits or whatever. But here, actually, as a chess player and as a person, both, I was super happy somehow. And okay, we laughed at this, but I mean, it was kind of fun, because it was very pleasant to hear this. And always, when I'm hearing that somebody loves me because of the King's Indian, I'm just happy about it. And somehow, when there is a chess super tournament or some event happening, like around the world, the first thing that catches my attention is the King's Indian game, with all this, it doesn't matter if good or bad, to be honest. Just the King's Indian game always catches my attention first. So let's see what happened in this game. And certainly it was a very, very good game in general, and very fighting game. So I'm very happy also about the quality of my play here. It's maybe one of the best King's Indian games I've ever played. But there are many, so I'm just thinking about making some kind of series of videos on the King's Indian games, both maybe lost and won, because there were certainly a lot of instructive games that I lost there as well. And I think it would be a nice idea to share this with you. So hopefully in the future I'll do it. And beside that, I would be happy, of course, to hear from you some suggestions, some ideas on what would you like to see on the channel. regarding the games, for example, the comments on the games, and certainly I will also think about other, different other formats, maybe some streams or playing against some top GMs as well and stuff like that. So we'll decide soon. And for now, let's see what happened in my game against Magnus. So you can see here, I've put the mic, the mic, sorry, up, and it's like, because some of the users, they said that there is some problem with the sound for them, but actually I don't have it. I'm checking it on the computer and devices and so on. Everything works okay, it seems. So if you have any problems with the sound, please also mention, but it seems it's fine. But anyway, I've tried to do this, so now I'm kind of singer. So I'm feeling like that at least. So yeah, let's see the game. So d4, knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, bishop g7, e4, d6. And now Magnus played knight g2, a rare line, but a tricky line. With the many ideas looking alike with the Zemish system. If you go just 3 here, and then there is a line like this with knight g2 or bishop e3. So this knight g2 is just a rare line to the fighting line. Simply he wanted to fight and play something out of the opening, probably to get immediately some play just out of the opening without any big theory or something. So knight g2, castle, knight g3, e5, c5 is also possible, e5, probably there are some other moves as well, so knight c6 or a6, but okay, so I went to a5, it's natural, d5, a5. So for those of you that play the King's Indian, it's just normal. In most of the positions you have this plan, e5, a5, and then knight a6. Sometimes instead of a5, knight bd7 is used, but usually this is the way. So a5, bishop e2, knight a6. And immediately aggressive by Magnus, he goes h4. So certainly if we let some h5, and then simply white will go for h5, then bishop e3 or g5, probably e3 or g5 is also possible, and then some queen d2, bishop h6, and you will only have problems. And black, black is not having any counterplay, so they're not on time. So certainly we have to meet this h4 with the h5. So I went h5, bishop g5, as there is no more h6, so bishop goes to g5, queen e8, queen e8, and now queen d2. Probably white should, at any moment they can go f3, but Carlsen had another intention, so he wanted to play in general without f3. At least it seemed like it was his idea, because after queen d2, what happened in the game, knight c5, he went castle long. So generally, he could go also f3 here. So he could go f3. And after f3, black can go, for example, let's say bishop d7 in the game. Castle, some a4, maybe even without a4. King b1, knight h7. And after bishop e3, probably black can just go f5, because queen is on e8, so h5 is protected. White doesn't have this e5, g takes f5, knight h5. That is, usually hanging there, so that's why queen went to e8, to avoid this pin on g5, and as well, in some cases with this f5, protecting the h5 pawn. So now let's say if white goes, the best for white is to go something like bishop f2 here. If f4, some knight f1, it's an unclear position simply. So it's a possible way for white, but they're not better. So it's just a playable unclear position. So if here they go, for example, ef, gf, and let's say f4 to attack h5, Then normally they're just not on time here because of e takes f4, bishop takes f4, and knight f6. There is always a3 in the air. Not always easy to play a3 for white themselves, because it's always some knight b3 stuff there, knight e4, knight b3, and everything. So it's either here rook d1 or a3 in general to avoid this a3 move, because otherwise the a3 will come at some point. Also, there are some ideas with knight b3 all the time, even sacrificing the piece, but certainly white should do something. h5 is not hanging anymore. For example, if you try to play some bishop h6, I mean to avoid all those a3 and the problems on the diagonal. So there is a very strong move f4 here, but I mean the idea of f4 is this, just to show you the idea. Some queen g6, yeah, and after some king c1 or king c1, because after king a1 there is a pretty mate, and it's just a mate, yeah. So king c1 and some, okay, maybe knight fe4. Black is just better, and in general it's just hard to play as white. So okay, let's go back here. For example, if white goes a3 to avoid a3 by black, simply queen g6. Well, I mean black is just doing fine. Rook will come to e8, knight e4 is in the air, knight g4 is always possible. Black is just completely fine. So let's go back. Yeah, so Magnus goes for knight c5, and now he goes for castle long. So castle long, in general he tries to save the tempi with I mean not playing this f3, but in fact it runs to a very strong reply. So now I went knight g4. Now the point is that f2 is hanging, but if you just protect f2, I can always go f6, and now your bishop is looking very awkward on g5, is hanging, so you have either to go bishop e3, then I will just take, and without this black square bishop, I mean black is just always doing good in general in this kind. So I mean always this idea is, as I said, a4 a3 and f5 and king h7 bishop h6, everything will be in their favor. So he has to take. I remember he was unhappy at this moment after knight g4 somehow, after he realized that he took quite fast, I think. So takes f3 and bishop d7. Somewhere, I mean bishop d7, yeah. Somewhere here he was not already happy somehow with his position. Probably he saw that now b5 is coming if some bishop h6 stuff at some point. But for example, if black goes here, white goes here, bishop h6, I'll just go f6, and then if we exchange the bishops, then b5 will come, and rook b8 at some point, rook this b8, and so on. So bishop takes b5, queen d7, rook fb8 maybe, and a4, and well, I mean it's just better for black. So yeah, so he went bishop e3. Sorry. So he went bishop e3. Here I thought about b5, which was possible, or a4, but somehow I wanted to protect the c5 knight so that he doesn't go bishop takes c5. And then he can establish maybe at some point some blockades like a4, b3, and it will be very hard to make any kind of progress. And certainly black is slightly better here, so they can play for advantage somehow. So b6 first, protecting the c5 knight, preparing f5 without allowing this bishop takes c5, as I said. Because bishop takes c5, then some d6 are also possible, c6, some knight a4, and stuff like that. So yeah, so b6 is just a good move, I think. It was possible to play b5, but maybe even this, then takes some king b1, rook c1. Still black is okay, I guess, but I don't know, there are some weaknesses, and still white's position is very solid as well. It's not easy to create a lot of play, but it's an unclear position, certainly okay for black. Was also an option. But I saw that b6 is stronger, simply. So b6. king b1. And now I've made a move like king h7. But the point of king h7, as far as I remember, was that after f5, e takes f5, g takes f5. I didn't like bishop takes c5. So let's say b takes c5, and now queen g5. King h7 is what I mean, that's why I played king h7, to have it in this position, king standing already on h7. But in fact, the computer shows that here king h7 is also good. So king h7, knight takes h5, and now just bishop h8. The power of two bishops is telling simply. I mean, rook g8 is coming, queen g6 even. I mean, a4, rook b8. The central pawns are just monsters there. e5 and f5 always can play e4 at some point. I mean, to be honest, it's just a very good position for black. So this was possible, but somehow I didn't like this bishop takes e5, queen g5 idea from far. So I saw that king h7 is good, and he can't do much after king h7 anyway. So why to rush with f5? So I went king h7. Yeah, king h7, queen c2. So he was preparing against f5. Computer suggestion is very interesting, and positionally, you know, transposing the knight. So knight g2, f5, and guess what? Knight g1, with the point of bringing the knight to h3 and g5. Well, I mean, it's not so easy to play like this, I must tell you. I mean, it looks, I mean, when you see the analysis, you know, the evaluations, then it's more or less clear that it's okay for white. But in general, it's still slightly better for black, he shows, but, you know, it's a possibility, because knight will come to g5, and it's much better placed there. So, this was the best for white. But he went queen c2, trying to prepare against f5. a4, not to rush with f5. I'm not really in a hurry here to play f5. I have all the time in the world here, so why not a4? Just to avoid any bishop takes c5 and a4 ideas. And maybe actually that was the point of the queen c2 as well. So to play bishop takes c5 and then go a4 and knight b5 to establish the knight on b5, and then it would be easier to play with white and to defend against all the other threats, because c7 would be always hanging, would need some protection by black, you know, to play some queen d8 or rook c8 or transfer the bishop from f6 to d8, whatever. So queen c2 maybe is with the idea of this bishop takes c5 and a4. So a4 to avoid all of this, and also a very natural and good looking move anyway. Always, you know, taking some space on the flank. Maybe after exchanging the bishops at some point as well, I can go b5, as I said earlier, with all these ideas, and trying to attack on the b line and so on. So a4, knight g2, f5. And here it would be better for white to go some knight c1, then knight d3, trying to, you know, to keep the balance, to bring the rook to e1, somehow to stay, you know, just stay without rushing anywhere, without really trying to break up black's center, without challenging it, you know, just standing and waiting what black will do and how will they progress. So knight c1 was a possibility. Then I can go some bishop h6, even, as I said, I mean, with all these ideas of b5 later. So maybe takes, slightly better for black, but still, I mean, white has good chances to equalize after knight d3. But Carlsen, I think, somehow was in aggressive mood here after f5. So he went e takes f5, g takes f5, rook h3. Trying to transfer his rook to g3 and g5. Maybe somewhere sacrificing the rook there even. And now black has to decide what to do here. Because, I mean, if we allow the rook to g3 and g5, then, I mean, it's tricky. Also, I didn't have a lot of time here somehow already, even though it was, you know, it was a classical game. So usually I should have more time in this position. But somehow, while thinking about what is the best way, a4, f5 or whatever, I took too much time and got in this position already in slight kind of time trouble. So I went king h8, threatening f4, and bishop f5, and so on. And the rook on h3 is hanging as well. King h8. So the best way would be here to go just rook h1 and try to stand again. So just wait for some action by black. Unpleasant position, but at least white is, you know, keeping its cool and trying to defend this slightly unpleasant position. But Carlsen goes for the forced and unclear lines with f4. I think it seemed very unclear, this position to him, and also he foresaw the sacrifice that is going to happen. f4, and here I made a mistake, I think. So I went knight e4, but it was much better to play first a3 to weaken the diagonal, this a1 h8. So after b3 I would go knight e4, and I would have twice a better position than in the game, because always this a3 is useful. In all the positions there are mating threats, you know, the diagonal is weak. And it's also tricky, you know, as you know now by this AlphaZero games and stuff, when the pawn goes too far there, like h6, a3, and so on, h3. It's very tricky, and especially AlphaZero plays well with all this stuff, with all this far advanced pawns. So this was much better version of what I did in the game. Instead I went knight e4. Knight e4. Yeah, and here white has to defend, but at the same time the defense should be a clever defense, of course, because I mean I will bring all my pieces out like queen g6 and rook e8, and they will have problems. But still they had time for a3, it seems. Queen g6, which probably Carlsen didn't like in general. I will go queen g6 simply, and it's unpleasant. But here he can go rook g1, calmly protecting everything. Even though, of course, when you look at the position after knight f6, I'm transferring my knight to g4. We'll bring some rook on e8. Some e4 is also in the air. Then again, all these tricks and ideas with c6, b5, rook b8, sacrificing maybe something there on the flank and attacking the white's king. Certainly a better position for black, but still it was the best way for white to proceed, to avoid this a3 ideas by black, and queen g6 is not the end of the world. But he went knight takes e4 with the idea that you will see now, and it's a very tricky one. So f takes e4, rook g3. Rook g3. Rook was hanging there, so rook g3. Bishop g4. Instead of bishop g4, I could go a3. But then f takes e5, bishop takes e5, and some rook g5 with a lot of tricks. So I'm not sure I liked it during the game. Still, it's possible to go some rook f5 or something, but you know, my king is quite open there on h8 already. I don't like it, and I think it's just better to go bishop g4 and win an exchange, as I did in the game. So bishop g4, rook takes g4, and this sacrifice, I think, this sacrifice was planned in advance, I think. So he saw that this is the way. So h takes g4, and now he went not the best way, but very natural, very human-like move that he did here. Instead, the best way again here would be, as you know already, is a3. So if I go now, for example, for bishop h6, let's say, one of the possibilities. Also b5 is possible, but then he can go f5, so it's a better version. So bishop h6 and some g3 or queen c1, trying to create kind of fortress, trying to defend, but certainly this is not what he wanted. He wanted to complicate matters and try his chance here. So he went f5, especially that I was low on time here, so he wanted to complicate it as much as he could. So f5, rook takes f5, knight g3, rook f8, For example, I mean, the tricky side of the position is visible when you do any other move, let's say, than I did in the game, like rook f7, for example, already knight e4, and knight is coming to g5 with a lot of tricks. There's always h5, h6 as well in the air. Everything is blockaded, so rooks are not as strong as they can be in open positions. So yeah, so rook f8 is the best move here. Rook f7 would be a slight mistake already. Slight inaccuracy, of course. So rook f8, queen takes e4. If yeah, is it a question if you go just knight takes e4? Well, now as rook is not on f7, so knight g5 can always be met by queen h5 or e4. So for example, here a3 can be played. If knight g5, exactly here it's queen h5 simply. Well, I mean, it's just an exchange up for black. h7 is not a threat. Queen h7 mate. So if I double on f and we'll just exchange the rook, I'm just winning. And I mean, white should do something, but what? I mean, it's not clear already. Some b4, but then g3, rooks on f, as I said. So if, let's say, rook e1, maybe here. Even ab or g3. Yeah, black is dominating here. Then rook f6, rook af8. So black is just winning, and the white's king now is much weaker. So rook f8, sorry, rook f8. Rook f8. Queen takes e4. Now white has established the blockade. If I don't change the rooks, and it's not clear how can I change the rooks at the moment, or if I don't start any attack, you know, to bring my rooks out, it's not clear actually what to do. I mean, what would be your suggestion here as black? What would you do? Just for example, if you see this position, I mean, if you look at it, you think about first protecting everything, like this g4 pawn and so on, and then maybe starting something with a3 or b5. So the best move according to nowadays computers is b5. And after, let's say here, c5, some a3, once again putting the pawn there on a3. So after b3, Compi likes to put this a3 in most of the cases. Then some rook f6. And let's say if c takes, and queen g4. Yeah, so here. Yeah, so queen takes g4. I think maybe the most natural and human way to play would be queen g6. Queen takes, rook takes g6. And if white tries to block the g line with bishop g5, just can go bishop f6 or something. And take g5, bring the second rook. It's much better for black. Still white has chances to save, but it's much better for black. Okay, so instead of this I went queen d7. I thought that I shouldn't give up the g4 pawn yet. Yeah, he went a3 to avoid a3, as we said. So imagine I would have this a3 played. Already he would have a lot of problems, because it would be just easier for me to play always after sacrificing with e4. I would have this diagonal problems created immediately for white's king. So a1, h8 would be very weak, you know, always here. If I would have this a3 played, yeah. So after the a3 already, I was slightly upset that he can bring his king to a2, and then he's in kind of safety, and it's not so easy to break up the position and, you know, to use the advantage of the exchange, you know, I mean, of being an exchange up. So after a3, I had to think about some actions that I can take already to start attacking his positions here on the flank. So I went b5, even though Compi suggests that black can go positionally like rook a8, then some rook f7, rook g8, bishop f8, some very very unusual maneuvers that even, I mean, for me now it's not so easy to understand. So for me it was more clear. As for the King's Indian player, maybe it was more clear to play b5, understanding that I'm trying to attack already on the flank. So b4 is hanging now in the air, a3 there, rook fb8, rook, you know, attacking all this white's position there, and, you know, trying to open up some space and play and lines for the rooks. So some verticals for the rooks. And after b5, he went c5, d takes c5. So the point was that if white will take on c5, I can go rook f4. And after queen d3, rook e8, trying to play e4. And this is much better for black. White has chances. They can go some king a1, e4, queen e3. Still has some chances because of the weakened black king and some ideas of knight h5 and so on. They're also just an exchange down, I mean, in kind of unclear position, you know, with a lot of tricky tactics and so on, and a lot of pieces hanging. So this is still possible, but it's much better certainly for black. I mean, still, I mean, they're very close to being, I mean, winning, but I mean, they have a lot of chances to win this position at least. So, but this was a possibility. But Magnus goes for, so after d takes c5, he goes for a super complicated approach, because he saw that I have not so much time and position is very, very tricky and unclear because of the tricks. And especially with such time, I think his chances of winning could be high if I would go wrong simply. Especially in this position, you can go wrong at any moment, and we will see now. So he went h5. Trying to attack the king, bringing the pawn there, so it's always there now. You know, this h6 and knight h5, rook f1 and all that stuff will be in the air with queen g6 and stuff coming as well. So h5. Now, probably rook a8 was possible. So after h6, let's say bishop f6, knight f5. And some super move bishop g5, attacking the knight, trying to exchange the bishop. Knight g7, bishop takes e3, knight e8, bishop d4. So somewhere rook f2 is coming. But now rook takes d4, e takes d4, queen e5. King h7, knight f6, I guess. Rook f6, queen f6, and this position is much better for black. The queen's endgame, you know, is much better. I mean, I will take at some point the pawn on h6. There are chances to convert this for black. Well, still white is in play. I mean, has some chances to save the game. It was possible to go for rook a8, but generally I saw that I have to play c4 as he gave me this pawn. And I have to just defend it and play for c3. Idea is to destroy the defense around the white's king. So I went c4. h6. Bishop f6. And now he could go for rook f1 or king a2. In general, I think that he should hide his king to a2 somewhere. Maybe here, maybe playing rook f1 first. Let's say rook f1, queen h7, rook f5. Especially that it was in his style here to bring the pieces and create some mess. Certainly he understood during the game, I guess, that he was worse here. But still, he saw that he has a lot of chances, the complicated position and the time. So it was tricky for me. And after rook f5, you know, with all these tricks, I mean, he would have some chances, you know, to complicate matters. But rook a8, certainly I'm better, but still to win this position is not so easy. So for example, after some queen g4, there is some bishop h4 tricks and take on g3. Then we'll have to convert somehow this endgame. It's not so easy. For example, I mean, there is some king a2 or stuff like that. So rook f1 was possible here. Rook f1 was possible, but he went bishop c5. I think he didn't see my reply after bishop c5, rook f7, and I think here he missed a few things, so I will show you now. First, if knight h5, I would just go rook g8. The idea is to play rook g5 and queen f5, so this, and then this. Let's say rook f1, just bishop g5. Queen e5, king h7. Black is defending everything, and actually, for example, if you go something like queen e4 check, there is just rook g6. And black has protected everything, exchanging the rooks now, having the exchange up, and a lot of pawns as well. So there is no compensation for white here. It's winning. So after bishop, after rook g8, rook f1, after rook g8, instead, white should go for some bishop before. It was always a possibility to protect against c3, so protect their king more or less, and bring the bishop to c3 in some cases. Was possible. So after rook g5, knight g3. So and this position is, yeah, again, better for black, but a lot of tricks, and a lot of blockades, and you know, the open king there on h8, so not so easy for black to convert the advantage. So this was a chance for him, I think, but instead he went rook f1, and I guess he missed the reply here after rook f1, because he missed the concept. I had few minutes here and still had to make like 7 or 8 moves, and I found the best one after rook f1. So instead of rook f1, also, if he would go, for example, for bishop b4, could go bishop h4. I'm happy in general to give up this e5 pawn because I don't need it. I mean, I don't need it. He takes on e5, he opens up my rooks, so I can bring the rook to e8, and you know, once the lines are open, the rooks will dominate the position. So bishop h4, I'm happily giving up the e5 pawn. Queen e5, bishop f6, queen e4, and rook e8. Queen g6, let's say, some bishop e5. Our dream is, you know, to move this knight from g3 and play queen f5. Rook e1, so that after bishop takes g3, white will go bishop c3. But of course, this trick doesn't work because of queen d5, bishop c3, queen d3, queen takes, pawn takes. And after bishop e5, I can just go king h7, I guess. Yeah, king h7, and then, you know, these two pawns, d3 and the coming supporting pawn, c pawn, c5, c4, with the rook and so on, black will just dominate the position and win the game. So it's winning for black. Okay, so let's go back. He went rook f1. And I don't know, surprisingly or not, but after rook f1, rook e8 is the only move not to get worse for black. So rook e8 that I've played in the game is the only move. It's giving me a huge advantage, but at the same time, it's the only move, more or less. So otherwise, white is just better. If, for example, black goes for rook d8, then just rook takes f6. Rook takes f6, queen takes e5. And even though black will maybe save the game by some queen f7 and some endgame positions with here, but you know, having the much better position than getting this, where you have to defend with the only moves, with some minutes on the clock, wouldn't be a pleasant task, you know. Yeah, so bishop f6. king h7. After queen e4, there is queen g6. So it's queen f4. But black can go c3. It's an only move. But they have enough move here. So c3 just makes a draw. And the point is that if you go b takes c3, there is a mate with rook d1 and queen b3. But if you go now queen e4, just go this. Bishop takes c3, king takes h6. And white's two pieces are not enough to win this position. I mean, it's like two pawns. I mean, it's a pawn as a compensation. Also, the rook is very strong here, you know, moving from one flank to the other, you know, collecting all the pawns and stuff. So it's simply equal. Yeah. So rook e8 is the only way not to get worse, and beside that is the only way to keep an advantage. So rook e8, a very strong move. So after queen g6, that was a possible way, and very natural to attack f6. There is an important queen takes d5. And now if white goes for rook takes f6, black goes queen d1 check, king a2, and now queen b3, yeah, king b1 and c3. Also, for example, if white goes for rook takes f6, let's say queen d1, just a moment, queen d1, king a2, queen b3. If they go, for example, instead of king b1, they go, sorry, king a1, then c3, b takes, queen c3, king b1, and rook d8. It seemed like black is going to be mated, but in fact, as I said, if the lines are open, rooks will dominate. So here, just rook d8, rook d1 is winning. It's completely winning for black. Beautiful lines here, but in the game, Magnus went bishop b4. One more tricky move. Yeah, so the idea is to bring the bishop to c3. If once he plays bishop c3 and I can't move my bishop from f6, he will be, you know, he will be doing very fine, at least. And actually, I think he will be pressing as well. Also, he stops c3. So now I found the more or less the only way to win the game. I had like minute here maybe or something, so a few minutes, maybe 2 minutes or something, I guess here. So after bishop b4, I went bishop g5. Yeah, hard to say a few minutes, but I mean, not much time for sure. Not much, yeah. Especially that when you're playing, you know, the classical games, once you have to switch from classical to blitz, it's not the same as if you play blitz immediately from the start of the game, because you have to switch the, you know, the switch like kind of switching the format. Yeah, you know, it's like first you are playing the classical game, and then immediately you have to play the blitz game. And play this game in a super complicated position where you want to think about, you know, all the possibilities, and your opponent is not in the same, having not the same time, like, you know, then it's kind of complicated to switch between these formats, you know, from one control to playing blitz, and playing blitz strongly is what you need. You don't need just to blunder everything here, because I mean the whole game is based on you know, on a huge pressure and concentration. So once you miss something here, it's I mean, there is no way back. So bishop g5, and now he complicates matters finally, but missing the super reply. He goes knight f5, and what I want to tell you is that here is the only move for black that wins the game, and I was able to find it in big time pressure, and I was very, very proud about this decision. Found, you know, over 1-2 minutes or few seconds, I don't know, on the clock, more or less, not few seconds here, but I guess around a minute or something. So I found best ways here to win the game. So computer shows that rook d8 was a possibility, was a possible win, but it's a very hard move to make because, I mean, it's first of all, it's not logical because you move your rook, which was protecting e5, to attack d5. By elimination, probably it's possible to find this move because anyway, at some point, you're calculating lines and certainly you are trying to see how you can defend or win in such kind of position. But after rook d8, also a very strong move. The point is that after queen takes e5, there is king h7. And if white, for example, goes queen e4, which is, trying to make some checks, just queen d5. So that's the point in general of rook d8 because we're attacking d5. And in general, simply, at some point we will take it. But also, as I said, when we're sacrificing e5, the lines are opened and then, the rooks are telling. So in this situation, for example, after this, maybe they can go some d6, trying to complicate matters. Then just c takes d6, bishop takes d6. And maybe the best way now is to go bishop f6. After bishop takes c5, there will always be some queen d3 in the air, and so on. Maybe queen e6. Actually queen d3, yeah, queen d3 is bad, of course, here. But queen takes d3, c takes d3, and knight d6. That's why I was surprised it's queen d3. It's not queen d3, of course, here. So after this, no, we would just take on e5 first. Of course, queen e5, king h7, and then queen d3. And position is winning. So white is just, there is a pin with this knight and rook and so on. So it's just winning completely. Yeah, so bishop takes e5 is not even an option. So, what else? Nothing. It's just lost. Yeah, it's just lost. Too many pawns, exchange up. Pieces are already fine. Queen e6 is possible next. c3. If bishop moves, then queen d3. So it's winning for black. Yeah, so rook d8 was possible. But I had to see that I can give this e5 pawn simply. That it works. But I found an interesting way that I was proud about. It's c6. So now if d takes c6, then our favorite queen d3 takes, and black is simply winning. So after c6, white goes bishop d6. Yeah, also I just wanted to mention one more line. So let's go back. Instead of c6, that was natural in general to play, I think. Some bishop f4. But it's a bad move due to... It's not a bad move. I mean, it's still better for black. But it's a bad move compared to other moves because they're winning completely. And this one is at least complicated. For example, there is knight g7. A very strong move. So rook d8. And rook d1. And still a lot of complications. Queen will come to g6. Some knight e6. Bishop c3. A lot of tricks. So a lot of tricks. I mean, I will not mention all of them. Probably there are many tricks. I mean, knight on e6 somewhere. And so on. So it's tricky for black. And certainly bishop f4 should not be played. So I went c6, the move that I was proud about after the game. c6, attacking d5. As I said, d takes c6 is queen d3. So after, let's say, queen takes g4, is just bishop f4. Knight is pinned. You can take on f4, but already playing without 20 pieces is hard. So he went bishop d6 to complicate it. And now bishop f4. Beautiful position somehow. It's winning for black. C takes d5, queen takes f5. Everything is threatening. Knight g7 is the only way to try to defend. Queen takes d6. Knight takes e8. Queen takes d5. Actually, it's important because, all the other moves are not winning, but queen takes d5 is immediately winning the game because this position that at first looks like white is winning the piece happened in the game. I'm just bringing my king calmly. because when he takes, I will have the passers there, connected passers, and the rook supporting them, and king is also coming. And beside that, I also have 2 pawns on the queen's flank. So gf, ef, knight d6, trying to take as many pawns as possible. Rook f8 was possible here as well. I went rook f6. So after knight e8, I would go rook f8, and then g3 and f3. So he went, yeah, after rook f6, he went knight b5, f3, knight d4. Of course, he understood and he knew that the position is lost, but he was trying the last chances. Somehow maybe there will be some trick, but in general, with precise play, certainly black is completely winning here by many ways probably. But the most easy way is probably that was introduced in the game. So it's king g5, king h6, sorry, king c2, king g5, king d2, trying to bring the king, so maybe to create some kind of fortresses there. But certainly white is not on time. I just tried to play it directly here, so like straightforward f2, knight e2, otherwise g3, rook f3, taking the last square of the knight on d4, then rook d3 and rook takes d4, and it was the winning rook endgame. It's 2 pawns up. So rook f3, king c2, king h4, threatening g3, rook h1, rook h3, rook f1, g3. Now g2 is not a threat, but king is simply coming to f3, and it's winning. Also some d4, d3 is possible in some cases. So king d2, king g4. Here Magnus resigned, and especially if you can see it with the notes, with the comments after the game, without the computer and so on, when everything is complicated, you don't have such a direct decisions that computer is showing you with exact evaluations and clear passes for both sides. And then when you're looking like this, you don't feel it. You don't feel how hard it was during the game. So it's simply you have to understand the positions. I mean, you have to evaluate the positions. You have to find the best moves. You have to do it with the time pressure. I mean, there is always the clock that is pressuring you to make some decisions and so on. So I was very, very proud of this game, and I think it's a very, very good game and of a very high quality by me in the King's Indian. And we also have to praise Magnus's fighting spirit, that in the position where he had to stay objectively, he tried an interesting idea with the exchange sacrifice and tried to play for tricks, for big tricks. And as you could see, it was not easy. If I wouldn't find one of these moves, with all these precise moves like rook e8 and c6, all the sequence of moves, I mean, I could get a lot of trouble. And in Zeitnot, of course, anything could happen. So a very interesting game, and I hope you liked it. The next video I will do in Russian, but I will also see if I am on time. I'll maybe try to make one more as well in English, so one more video in English as well on the same day, but I'll see if I'm on time. If not, I'll try to do it in the next days. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, hit the bell to always be notified about the new videos that are coming up on the channel. And please send your suggestions, write them in comments, or send them to email. I'll be happy to see what you want, what kind of content you want on the channel. And I think we will do a lot of interesting stuff. I'm very happy about opening the channel, about feedbacks and everything. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. Bye bye till the next time.